I want to talk about something that is feeling really true in this moment as I just ended a session with a couple that I work with, and also in this moment that I'm having today in my life where I'm just really moving through some layers of grief and sadness and a bit of depression, which is not typical for me. But as I gave this session today, and as I was facilitating this communication and connection and clarity to happen in session, I was just so struck with and reminded of the frequency of love and how essential it is in our healing process. Now, as I say that, it sounds so obvious in an intellectual way. But one thing I've been really feeling into that I think came to clarity in this moment recently, which is the difference of healing work from a place of intellectual understanding. And that can be so stimulating to many parts of ourselves when we have healing, therapy, et cetera, that really brings enlightenment or understanding or clarity. It's very uplifting, very helpful to our systems. But at the same time, what's really being made clear to me today is that above all, and this really is the foundation of why I do what I do, is that the frequency of love in the healing process is extremely essential, that it creates the highest form of transformation and healing above any intellectual understanding, above any feeling of enlightenment or expansion, aha moment. When we have a healing process that we're facilitating in ourselves, or as a practitioner I'm facilitating in another, or when we receive from the facilitator, if there's a frequency of love behind it, it is the most powerful. So I'll see if I can kind of break this down a little bit more and what I mean by this. So I'm sure some of you can and note and have noticed the difference of when you can feel something versus know something. Knowing something is something that we have an understanding of in our cognitive awareness. It's a conscious awareness. We might get visuals, we might feel it in the center of our being as just a simple understanding. It's a clear knowing. We have perspective. Maybe we can orient to something with intellectual, mental understanding. When we feel something, it is more of a full body experience. It engages more of us. I would say even our mind is engaged when we feel. There's all of us engaged when we're feeling. And love is the ultimate catalyst to feeling, of course. It invites us into a fullness of feeling. It's a full spectrum experience. It's multidimensional. It's every shade of color, of feeling all in itself. Love encompasses everything. And love on a spiritual level, I'm sure most of us would agree or have an understanding that love is the foundation of who we are as humans, as spirits, as souls, as beings. It's also the foundation of our universe, of the spirit world, of God, of the divine, all of it, all the things. Love is the foundation of reality. And so, of course, when we're able to interact with the frequency of love, it can hold many things and facilitate many things. And as I would argue in a very clear way, love is the primary place that we need to be healing from. And this is what's also very much facilitated through an IFS, or internal family systems process of healing, of psychotherapy, which is the basis of my work that I utilize in my coaching work, my therapeutic coaching work. And I want to also share, on a personal level, as I am, like I mentioned before, moving through some grief, I can feel there's a part of me that's coming up with feelings of heaviness and depression, and it feels like a sense of darkness. I know intellectually that's a protective part of me. I've come to learn that, to know that I can step back and see it as, okay, that's that feeling, that depth of emptiness, heaviness, is coming from a part of me. And when I can notice it like that, what's also essential and so important for myself and my own healing process is to notice that, not just from an intellectual place, but to notice it from a place of love, deep compassion, to just accept it. I think when I orient to myself with love, I can step back into a bigger place of understanding, acceptance, just pure acceptance of almost a presumption or assumption of course you're going to do that. Of course you're going to be bringing these feelings. I don't even have to understand, but I can assume that they're there for a reason. We're just trying to help that in an intellectual understanding. This protective part of me is bringing this pit of emptiness and lowness and heaviness as a way to distract or defer from something else. And I'm sure in time I will work through that, and get more clarity on what's underneath that. And I think I can already get a sense, and I've already been starting to work through that. It's really just some grief that I'm moving through, some sadness that I'm moving through. And so I mention all that, I share all of that because it's so important to relate to myself from this place of love, because A, that's really what's going to help me move through this. But B, it brings me a sense of hope, groundedness, and connection to a bigger frequency that holds everything. And it makes me emotional thinking about that, but it's essential to feel that connection to the reality of our world, this frequency of love. It's essential to allow ourselves to be held by that, to tap into that in a way. And it just takes a level of intentionality and orientation of, okay, I'm going to notice my feelings from a place of love, rather than I'm just going to see them and understand them on an intellectual level. So I wanted to share all this really just to speak to the importance of that. And maybe I can give any other examples as to why this is so essential and how it differs from other ways of healing. Of course, in contrast to this healing from a place of love, is kind of the classic forms of therapy that we think of, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. When we think of classic or traditional therapy, that's usually what we are imagining or referencing. And it's very powerful modality in its own way. It helps us understand behaviors. It helps us see on a cognitive level what's going on. It helps us unpack behaviors and take different action. But the majority of it's happening from a very heady, intellectual, mental place. It's healing that's existing in a mental place. And that's helpful. And it's not going to give a full bodied healing that can be found through healing from love. It's not going to give a holistic sense of healing. And the reason this is important is because we are, of course, holistic beings. We are humans that not only have a mind and a brain and thoughts, but we also have emotions wherever they arise from in our system. We also have an energy system, an aura. We also have a soul in which encompasses us at the deepest level and moves with us between lifetimes. That is really who we are at our essence beyond this particular body that we're in right now, and particular lifetime that we're in right now. We have a soul and we have a physical body. And so holistic beings, we have all these different layers to ourselves that deserve and need care. And true healing is facilitated when we're able to heal on all levels. And that, again, can only really happen when we're addressing ourselves on all levels. And love is the simplest, most effective, and true way of doing so. That can look like feeling ourselves on a soul level, feeling our essence as to who we are and bringing it love, recognizing that essence of who we are from a place of love. And it can look like being with our bodies, bringing presence to the physical sensations that we have, to the body that holds us, that encompasses us, and bringing it love on all levels, recognition, acceptance, unconditional love. And it can look like bringing that unconditional love to our minds, to our thoughts, to our mental processes, as stressful and difficult as they might feel at sometimes. How essential it is to really recognize all those thoughts and ways of thinking from a place of love. And of course, to bring love to our emotions, no matter what they are, to any and all feelings. So love, essentially this unconditional frequency of acceptance and care and all the things. How to describe love? I'm not gonna, I'll do my best here. If we bring that to all these different layers of self, then we're able to create holistic healing. And as someone who's studied what's called transpersonal psychology or spiritual psychology, holistic healing is at the center of that practice, of that orientation. And it's still very strange to me to this day that traditional psychology, I think in a way is considered holistic, like that healing is considered holistic, but traditional psychology doesn't include our holistic health. It often doesn't include one's physical sense, somatic sense or health. It doesn't typically include our spiritual connection or health in its orientation. And so when we look at transpersonal psychology or spiritual psychology, that is an orientation that includes all these layers. And I think, luckily, and know that holistic healing is very much on the rise. It's the awareness of it, the need for it, the calling for it. So I just want to mention all this just to kind of break it all down for those of you that maybe have heard these terms or want a deeper understanding of these differences, but also to really advocate for this importance of love being at the foundation of our healing. And then also, spiritually speaking, love is essential. And I know that sounds obvious, or it sounds obvious as I say that. But when I break that down, love is also, the frequency of love is also essential in spiritual connection. For example, I'm sure some of you can think of moments when you've called out. Maybe you've called out to God or to the divine or to your guides from a place of need, maybe a desperation, and may not have heard any guidance or felt any connection in return. And this isn't because necessarily we're coming from a place of demand and non-love to the divine, but it's that we're not feeling that frequency of love when we're reaching out. And to feel that frequency of love and to tune into that is essential as the language of spirit, that the spirit world is based in the frequency of love. So in order to connect to it, to connect to the divine, to God, to the spirit world, we need to connect to the frequency of love in order to be in communication with it, in order to receive guidance. And this can happen often when we're in an emotion. And again, when we're in an emotion, we're in this kind of more full-bodied experience. It taps us back into the frequency of love if we allow that. If we're feeling our feelings with a sense of fullness, whether consciously or unconsciously, we are more than likely connecting to a frequency of love. And then we can do so even more consciously. Like, I'm going to feel these feelings from an orientation of love. But also letting ourselves fully feel automatically brings us into that frequency of love, because it is a full spectrum frequency. So I know I'm getting a little meta here, but hang in with me. So when we connect with spirit, we need to do so from a place of love. So if we're connecting to our emotions and we're really feeling the fullness of it, often that can be moments when we have spiritual connection, spiritual experiences, transpersonal experiences where we move beyond just the conscious cognitive orientation of ourselves, of what we're experiencing, of what we're understanding, and we move to a more human, fully embodied experience, and therefore open us up to connect to spirit and feel that love from spirit, to feel that guidance, to feel the awareness that's coming from there. Maybe we have insights, maybe we have understandings. Some of that may be arising from within, some of that may be arising from our guidance system, from the divine, from God. And so connecting from a place of love is essential when we want to connect with spirit and with the divine. And one way that can look, let me see if I can describe this. Essentially, if I were to simplify it, it would look like feeling into that place of love from within, wherever you feel that. Often it's within the heart center. You could imagine bringing an unconditional love from your heart center to yourself, and then extend that outward to the world of spirit, to God, to, Jesus, if you feel called, or to any other guide or deity or spirit that you really, really feel called to. It could be a loved one. And as you orient to that love within and then extend it outward, then you can just hold that frequency of love, and you can send a question out from that place to whoever you want to connect with, to whatever you want to connect with. And then you listen from a place of love, a place of openness, a place of unconditional love, of I'm going to receive fully whatever answer is here. And that is more doable when we're in a place of openness and love. And that also speaks true for when we're in relationship and we're relating to one another. It's essential for healthy communication, productive communication, connection, conflict resolution, intimacy. Of course, those things are going to be most successful when we're orienting from a place of love. So it's also an essential ingredient in relationship for many reasons, but also because it is this language in which we orient from and is the foundation of everything. And of course, including relationship, as we know. And in communication with a loved one, what this can look like in terms of the orientation of IFS couples work, the most, what we advocate through that work is to communicate from self to self, capital self to self, which is essentially you're speaking from the whole of who you are, kind of this more mindful, holistic self to the more mindful, holistic self of the other. And another way of putting this is from one who's rooting and connected to the frequency of love to the other who's rooted and connected to the frequency of love. And from there, we're able to have more effective, clear communication. And energetically, it can look like the radio tunes are set to the same station and things are able to be conveyed more accurately. And so in the relationship context, love is also essential for the fullness of understanding to happen, for the fullness of healing, the fullness of conflict resolution, intimacy, connection, etc. Not only that, love is kind of being offered and given, which I think a lot of us think of in relationship. I'm going to give love and I'm going to receive love. But when we really allow ourselves to move more fully into the frequency of love, it means I'm going to orient from the wholeness, the fullness of my holistic self, from the fullness of myself in the frequency of love. All of me is going to orient to the fullness of the other through this frequency of love. It's a much deeper, fuller experience, as I'm hoping that's making sense and being conveyed. So I just wanted to share all this really to, again, speak to the importance of love in this more psycho-spiritual way, if you will, or really speak to it as a frequency as an ingredient of fullness, of our holistic beingness, as the language of the divine, as the language of connection, as the main ingredient needed in healing and everything else. So the reason I wanted to speak to this is because I myself have had to learn over my lifetime the importance of returning to love time and time again. And I think most of us on our healing journey start to essentially learn what it's like to heal ourselves on many different levels. We can heal on the cognitive level, we can heal on the physical level, we can heal on a spiritual level. And some of that might be done from more mental places or emotional places, and but they may not be on a full holistic level. And until that happens, we only can really move through something to a certain degree. And when I think about my own journey of returning to love, a lot of what that's looked like is catching myself trying to overcome a pattern from a more cognitive, fix-it, problem-solving kind of place. That can look like, okay, noticing my anxiety, telling myself it's going to be better, changing my thoughts, changing my behaviors, all things that are helpful. It can look like coming from that place and getting so far with moving through layers of healing to, this deeper understanding that's come really from moments of fully feeling and being moved to fully feel and go through fully the experience of multiple emotions. When I've allowed that, there's this opening that happens, and I'm reminded of the feeling of fullness in love. And I've learned to kind of shortcut right to that place. And this is a lot of what an IFS process can help with as well, is essentially how to shortcut to utilizing the frequency of love to go right into healing even more deeply. So moving away from kind of more of these cognitive place, orientations of healing or tools or thinking our way through to really letting ourselves notice something, feel something, accept something, allow something with full love, acceptance, non-judgment, unconditional love. And when we do that, the feeling, the thought, the part of us that it's coming from can feel fully witnessed. And it can feel fully held, understood. And that's where the healing process can really happen. And there's other layers of IFS that get really nerdy that I won't get into right now. But the first, an essential ingredient is to notice our emotions, get to know the parts of them, where they're coming from, and really relating to and building a relationship to those things from a place of love and acceptance and non-judgment. When we do that, that is when things can fully move and heal on a multi-dimensional level, holistic level. So in my life, I've learned time and time again, and will continue to learn time and time again, the importance of orienting to my feelings, my thoughts from love. And this gets really tricky when we have highly critical parts, or we have difficult emotions that we have a lot of resistance around, or fear, such as shame, or deep anxiety or terror, or feelings of not being enough, or whatever it is that are really difficult for us to feel. When we can orient to those from a place of love, everything changes. And really only until then will things fully shift. And we're going to need to go through the phases that we need to. We're going to often start cognitively, and that's okay. But I just want to mention all this and really highlight the importance of the frequency of love, because you too can shortcut your healing process. You too can utilize this orientation to connect to yourself, to your emotions, to your soul, to the essence of yourself on an energetic level, to the divine, to God, to your partner. And when you tune into and orient from the place of love. And I think one simple way to really start by doing that is to practice awareness of when you're not doing that from a place of non-judgment. You see how it's multi-layered and very meta? So if you can start to notice, okay, I am noticing a thought, or I'm noticing a way of orienting, or I'm noticing a belief, noticing a feeling. Okay, let me check in and see how I'm noticing that thought or feeling. Do I have judgment? Do I have resistance? Do I have a desire to change it or fix it immediately? Do I want to ignore it? Do I want to play it off? Whatever is coming up, noticing how you're orienting to it, and then seeing if you can invite yourself to orient from a place of love. And if there's difficulty with that or resistance to that, that could really point to something else that could need and utilize some love first. So maybe that's a bit of fatigue or annoyance, confusion, anything else that might come up. So we really want to start with exactly where we are right now in the present moment. And so as we're speaking, maybe I'll even invite all of you, and I'll invite myself to do the same, as if we just take a deep breath and we just notice how we're feeling right now in this moment. Whatever feelings, whatever thoughts, whatever physical sensations we might notice. I can notice there's a bit of anxiety as I'm recording this and sharing this, and this awareness of I want to get it right and say it a certain way and be clear. I can just notice that desire and that bit of nervousness. And as I notice that, I can notice there's a little bit of like embarrassment around that. And I can just notice that. And even as I name that, it invites it into my awareness, and it helps it feel seen. And I can feel a softness from there. And from there, I can feel the love start to flow of what if whatever is present is okay? What if I can just notice it with non-judgment just to start? And what if I can name it? Then from there, I'm able to be with it. Just meet it with presence and love. And from there, I can notice that it starts to move a little bit. It starts to shift. And that's because our emotions are energy. Our emotions are energy. They have a life of their own. Sometimes I like to imagine our emotions are kind of have a spirit of their own. I'll save that for another episode, if you will. But as I notice my emotions and I'm just present with them with unconditional love, I can feel them move. I can feel their aliveness. I can feel the frequency of them. And I can even imagine them as coming from parts of myself, or just having a soul of their own, this brings emotion, that the embarrassment has a heart and a soul that deserves love. I can imagine that and connect to the nervousness as having its own soul and heart deserving of love. And as I do that, I can feel almost like a frequency, a heart-to-heart connection from the heart of myself, my holistic self, and holistic awareness to the heart of this emotion. And from there's this aliveness. And it's just really, it reminds me of the beauty of love, and the language of love, and how it really builds on itself. And because of that, there is such importance of just remembering that it's available at all times, whenever we need or want it, because it is the foundation of our being. It's all around us. It's always available, especially when we're in the deepest moments of grief, or some moments of depression or numbness or heaviness or emptiness that we're feeling. It's there. It's always there. And so I want to really speak to that, the frequency of love being available to you right now, every moment. And I'm saying this to myself as well. And from there's this trust that these emotions will move through as they need to, and they will get the love that they need to from myself, and also because I invite it from the divine, which is also something I deeply advocate in the healing process, which is also very transpersonal or psychospiritual in nature, is that our healing process doesn't need to be alone, that we get to invite the frequency of love into our healing from ourselves, but also from the divine, also from the foundation of the universe of consciousness. And all we have to do is just remember it and call it in and have the intention of doing so. And we will need to be reminded of that time and time again, because we're human, and because we have minds, and because we have fragments in our emotional system, and we have parts of us that tend to become dominant or focus us in a certain way, and that's just part of being human, and we need that. But at all times, we can just remember that love is available, and that we are love, that we need love, that love is both a frequency that exists. It's the foundation of us. It lives within us. It's between us, and it's in everything. So with that, I want to thank you for listening. And I want to thank you if at any point you've invited yourself to connect to the frequency of love during listening to this or watching this, at any time after this, at any time before this. I want to thank you for doing so, because from my heart to yours, it's important. It's important to me, and it's important to you. And because we're made of love, it's important to all of us. And it's important to love itself, that you remember it, and you include it, and you invite it in, and you tap into it and return to it time and time again. So with that, I thank you, and I thank myself, and I remind myself to do the same. So with love and gratitude, until next time.